if something doesn't make sense to you, don't follow it. If it does, there are so many wonderful riches in all the traditions and the rituals and all of that from these ancient religions and practices that I believe add to the experience when we are integrating with spirit on our own. I consider myself a cafeteria Catholic, which means I take what I like and I leave what doesn't make sense to me. But I enjoy the ritual. I enjoy the energy that I feel when I'm at a.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. My bestie, an absolute doll and someone that has captured my heart and is pretty much family. I just want to welcome back Julie Ryan to the podcast. I love you so much. I'm so happy you're here. And we're just going to have some shop talk, some, let's get down and gritty with what's going on in the spiritual world today.
Well, I love you so much right back. So say back at you, babe.
Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that more people want to have insight into, is to get into a place where, conversation with wisdom teachers it's like a fly on the wall. What can we extract from this as observers? And everyone's always looking for the next thing, right? The next thing that's going to shift my awareness. And hanging around you, it only takes about a second, because you're constantly putting out this divinity, this, you would refer to it as God code. It's coming out from every possible emanated state that you're in. And I love you for that.
Oh, thank you. I'm not aware that I'm doing that, but
Yeah, it's a natural order. That's who you are. You're beaming this as a standard sort of like transmission. And people get that when they're in the room with you, when they watch your podcast, when they experience anything that you put out. And this is kind of like where people want to focus their attention, is to continually grow and expand in their own experience.
Yeah, I find that as well, that the zeitgeist is really shifting and people want spirituality in their lives, whether that's in combination with an organized religion or not, or some kind of cultural background like what you have tapped into, not that you were born into, but what you've chosen to get into with the Taoist philosophies and all of that. And it's been really interesting to watch it in my lifetime. And I think a lot of it, Son, and I'd love to hear your opinion of this, is that the old guard is dying off. And so the younger people are not as ensconced in the rules and regulations of the control of other forms of, here's how you get to God and here's how you do it, and all of that. And they're looking for their own ways, their own paths.
I think there's a great observation. I think the biggest caveat to that, if I would say a cautionary tale, is to recognize what is the consensus. Why are we forming this sort of like dismissal of any sort of recognized state of being? Like, okay, I found God, universe, Buddha, Tao. But no, I've got it within myself. Okay, I think you and I agree with that. But then they kind of, they're like, a 2-year-old playing with matches. Okay, I'm alive. I'm aware. This looks really exciting. When I play around with it, it creates a spark. But the actual condition to understand that if you create that spark and it turns into a flame, it can burn a house down. Now, most people tend to start that way. They're like, oh, screw the whole God thing, or, religion or belief system. I've been told from my local social media, like, transmission, that I am the I am. And that sounds fantastic in the reference to the idea. But then it's an idolized sort of state. It's not actually owned by that individual. So when they don't own it, there's going to be the effects of that, because the ownership is where the embodiment comes in. and when you're not really, you don't build a house with a foundation, it's going to crumble.
Furthermore, there are so many wonderful riches in all the traditions and the rituals and all of that from these ancient religions and practices that I believe add to the experience when we are integrating with spirit on our own. And people that say, well, this happened in this religion and that happened in that religion. I say, well, that's all man-made stuff. So you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You want to, I consider myself a cafeteria Catholic, which means I take what I like and I leave what doesn't make sense to me. But I enjoy the ritual. I enjoy the
Mhm.
energy that I feel when I'm at a mass on Sunday. I enjoy watching the energy during that ritual, whether it be in a Catholic church or in the park or whatever. I That's how I was raised. It's familiar to me. And then with what you do, I see amazing energy in that as well. And I think we just need to be discerning and learn how to be discerning. So if something doesn't make sense to you, don't follow it. If it does, then you can look into it. I have a friend who calls himself a recovering Catholic, but when he goes to Europe, he's in every cathedral and they've got him about every block. And he's dragging his family to the cathedrals, and he said, I don't go to church anymore, but I can't stay out of the cathedrals." I said, he said, "Well, what is that?" He asked me. I said, "Well, it's the energy of the Christos energy, which is God energy, whether it comes through the work that you do, Son, or, some other type of religion or practice. It's all the same thing. It's all the same source, same God."
It's like an ownership. I mean, that's something that draws at my heartstrings. At some point, I want to, definitely walk through the Sistine Chapel. That seems
Yeah.
like, because I've been obsessed with Michelangelo since a young boy. So there's an absolute draw to that place of worship. And the truth be known, it's like it's an investment. The reason that people become gravitated to these places of worship is others have also emanated their commitment and their devotion to that source. And so when you walk into it, it is palpable. And you're like, oh my goodness, I mean, I'm here because I'm drawn to this worship, this love, this unconditional love that is pouring through into every little nook and cranny, and you feel the energy, the emanated embodiment that
Right.
draws you there. Yeah.
Well, and those old cathedrals in Europe especially, and I'm sure other traditions have their structures as well, certainly the mosques and the temples like you
Mhm.
have. There's centuries of energy that is embedded in the stone, in the statuary, in the marble, in the whatever that's in there, in the mastery of the porcelain fixtures and the carvings and, it's just that energy is permeated in there, and that's what, to your point, that's what we're feeling when we go into those places.
Yeah, it's ancient, it's unconditional, and it's a full body experience. You recognize that
Right.
there's a lot of devotion and commitment from generations. Millions of people have walked that path, and you're feeling it, and it congregates at that place, and you're like, I could just sit in this stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm never one missed for. I don't care whether I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, where I went all around. When I visited that the last time I did Graceland.
Yeah. It's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and I loved hitting all the little churches. I did a bunch of them,
Yeah.
and like you want to walk into a place of worship where they don't know you from Adam, and then they treat you like family. You know that you're in the right place.
Exactly. So I'll go to Rome with you and Jade and all the kids. I
God,
could be
God,
I'll just be part of the gang. I'll invite myself along with all the
love it.
kids.
I love it. I love it. That's it. You and Tim Hill have to come. He's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys been before?
I haven't, and my
Oh, there you
father
go. There
my
you go.
father graduated from the Gregorian University because
Oh wow.
he went to the seminary after World War II on the GI Bill, no less, and
Wow.
left 6 months before he was to be ordained a priest. Thank you, God, because I wouldn't be here. And so people throughout he's in heaven now, but people would say, "Well, why did you leave?" And if I was there, I'd say, "Well, I appeared to him in a dream." And I said, "Dad, what are you thinking?" He said, "No, it didn't quite happen like that." But yeah, it's something that's on my bucket list to
Yeah.
do.
We will do it together.
I would love
We
that.
will do it. Yeah. I mean, there's just the enrichment of that mastered sort of state, and his talent was just beyond this material world. He was just channeling 24/7,
Mhm.
and was an inspiration for me, just as even as a young boy. That was like one of the first things that I drew upon when my grandmother was like, okay, well, you're bored, here, take a banana and put it on the table here, and I want you to draw it, observe it. It's called the life drawing. I'm like, a still drawing, a still life, is that what you call that? Yeah, that's what that is. And I'm like, okay. And then I recognized how powerful it is. You start shading it, next minute it becomes three-dimensional, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's alive. This is, the passion of things like art is another expression. So
Yeah. Yeah. I heard a quote the other day, and it was, all culture, meaning art, music, history
mm,
of different cultures, if you will, is divine inspiration and the divine showing itself, basically. I don't remember the exact quote, but I remember it struck me and I thought, evidence of the divine, I think, about how all artists, all musicians, all authors, all whatever are all channeling that information. And
mm,
you've written books, I've written books, and I remember writing some things and I go back and I read it and I think, I don't remember writing that, but it sounds pretty good.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's really where you're swimming in divinity. It's pumping out
Yeah.
24/7. And I mean, I think we'd like to believe we're always walking that path, and most of the time we do. And then once in a while we fall in a pothole with the human condition, and it draws our attention away from our true self. And that's when we go looking for wisdom teaching, like all the things that you put out into the stratosphere to make
Wow.
people more in tune with who they are.
Well, thank you. Same right back at you. And I think, we have human experiences too, but that's how we create that whole yin and yang thing, the black and white, the good, the bad. I always feel like I want to stay in the middle. I'm the Lady of Justice statue, and I want to keep it balanced, or uh, something else like a teeter totter. You want to be in the middle and be able to look at both sides and see there's always something that can be created, but it's created. It's been my experience from staying in the middle. Think of a nuclear reactor. What are they doing? They're putting those atoms or whatever, neutrons or whatever, together, and they crash and it creates energy. But it's that staying in the middle thing. And it's hard to do when we first start doing it. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, that's the it's the task at hand. I like to call it the difference between being hard or soft. You don't want to be the soft serve that melts in the sun. You also don't want to be so brittle that you're going to crack under pressure. You want to be supple, right in the center
Mhm.
point, homeostasis, where that convergence of yin and yang as one, and you
Right.
get to taste what it's like to be whole, the holy stream, the primordial mother, God emanated as such. That's where you can be a participant in or an observer of miracles. This is where it happens.
Well, and we need stuff that we don't like and don't want in order to create the new. Because if everything was just hunky hunky all the time, first of all, it would be really boring. And secondly, nobody would ever have an incentive to create something new. And I find that fascinating too. And at this point in my life, I'm in my mid 60s, and I find that when there's some kind of tragedy that happens, or there's some kind of unrest somewhere in the world, I don't go to all the suffering and all of that. Certainly, I have compassion for that side of the equation. But where I go now is, what good's going to come out of this? What's being created by this situation that wouldn't have had the opportunity to be created otherwise? And it's a totally different way of looking at it. And some people that I've talked to about that just look at me like I'm nuts. But holding that middle space of if we're all going to use our imagination anyways to envision something, let's envision something that's going to be beneficial, that feels good, that looks good, that's going to be good for the people that are going through whatever the situation is, instead of using our imagination to only think up of things that are negative, and then we suffer over it. Well, I mean, it's all imagined anyways. It's not real. So why not feel good about it instead of suffering over it?
The trials and tribulations of the human condition.
Yeah.
How beautiful, how poetic it is when people fall on their own sword. But it's like, that's what they don't want. They don't want to actually meet themselves. And that's where you get the apprehension. Like, you talk about homeostasis, you are creating that by choice. Most people tend to be misled with their mind, their intellect, to step right up to the edge. And then when the thoughts, feelings, and emotions evoke this sort of, I don't feel good, they about face and run in the other direction. Instead of recognizing this is the next blossoming of self. We refer to it in Taoism as the great bellows. You're contracting and expanding. Furthermore, it's a trilogy, a trinity of creation, completion, and then rebirth. And so when you come up to that edge and everyone's making me feel bad, this is not good, you free fall and dive off the edge into a new beginning. You break the threshold, the glass ceiling. It's time for you to be reborn. And that's where most people, they retreat. They're like, oh, no. I'll just keep eating around the outside. That's the personal benefits of the personality. When in actuality, the more you immerse yourself in the things that are not the feel good, they actually hold no charge. You've walked through the fire. You've recognized, guess what? That never had any control over me in the first place, but I had to own that. The ownership was so key. The embodiment was key. And then it's like, oh, that was like, I thought it was the size of an elephant, but once I walked around the corner, the shadow was actually of a mouse. The mouse was just like, what was I thinking? But that's the problem. What was I thinking? Thinking is not part of the equation. Feeling with an actual signal that is an absolute signal, which can only come from you. You can't transmute another version that's subjective, objective. Universal, supple truth is an absolute truth that cannot be distorted by someone else's opinion. And that will come from embodiment. The more and more you put yourself into these positions of growth, you'll recognize that, oh, I thought my ceiling was here. No, it's actually here. And I continue to expand from that. But the apprehension is where, the incessant finite mind will keep running stories of, well, you don't want to do that. That could put you in a bad situation. Oh, that's bad for you. It might harm you. Oh, there's an issue there. Don't get too close. You're going to get burnt. And this is just a cycle. It's just like Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver looking in the mirror, convincing himself, are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? And eventually you're going to buy it, right? I think in this space, you and I would have to agree, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, there's a lot of fake it till you make it people here. It's just a spiritual space where they want to arrive. And when they get in the presence and energy of yourself, they want it so bad, they refuse to put in the licks or the reps that are necessary to embody yourself. Instead of just going straight through the front door, I want to go in the back door. I want to play around. I might take a side step or side street. And that's where you're bracing yourself for impact instead of just recognizing that there's no impact. It's just an expanded state and you become whole. Does that make sense? Or maybe
Yeah.
I'm just...
No, I agree. And what's coming to mind is I've had graduates of my angelic attendant training class, which is a whole weekend. The next one's in May, the 16th and 17th, and it'll be online. And I've had a couple of graduates over the years, and we've had hundreds of people from, I don't know, 15 countries, I think now. And we have practice groups that are free for life. They go with it. Well, I think we've got 9 a week right now.
Wow.
And that's when really the skill sets come in. Because to your point, you can go to a conference, you can read a book, you can watch a video, but until you do it, and with the reps, like you alluded to, you don't really get it, and it's not really embedded. So I had somebody say one time, do you get disappointed or upset when people don't come to the practice groups or don't stay involved? And I said, not at all. And this gal said, well, why not? And I said, because I feel like it's something that they needed at this time in their life, which is why they participated. And they're off into something else that's serving them maybe just as much as what I teach. All I can do is teach it. I can't make somebody absorb it. And I went on to say, I graduated from high school. I've never been back to a high school reunion. I don't have any desire to go back to a high school reunion. So the people that resonate with what I teach, what you teach, are going to stay involved if they wish. If they don't, that's fine too. I'm thrilled that I got to meet them and participate in their lives for even if it was a short time.
Yeah. It's like there's definitely a large community of information consumers or accumulators.
Mhm.
Like I refer to as information effers. They just keep taking more and more and more and more, but they're not embodying it. So it becomes a huge resume. And when they roll out their CV, they've got like 47 titles from 47 different things, but they're a jack of all trade and a master of nothing. And that's where the path kind of finds you, where you will stay that path. You'll stay that regulated pace. And for me, people always say, well, how come, you were not even, as a young boy, you were exposed to church and everything else. And then all of a sudden, as a teenager, you became immersed in, out of nowhere, you probably spent 10 years saying, I'm an atheist. I was never really fixated on anything. And then it just came about that this path was my path. There was no falter. There was no question. It was a direct path that I followed without even thinking about it. And that's a passion that you are connected to.
Mhm.
And so when you don't deviate, you're going to recognize that the more and more you embody, the more and more you focus your attention on it, you can recognize how powerful you are as a holy stream. But that can be in God, Buddha, Tao, universe. You can create all of these relationships, but it takes a moment to invest in yourself. And so self-consumption or cannibalism, where you take in more information, you're eating yourself up from the inside out, you're left with nothing. You're kind of just like, okay, I kind of like a little bit of football, some soccer, maybe once in a while, a little cricket. Well, what's your favorite sport? I don't know. Maybe I just like going for walks. Okay, well, that's fine. But, I really would love to know what it feels like what it felt like for Jesus to come back from the dead, what it would feel like for someone to turn water into wine, what it would feel like with these ancient scriptures that have been teaching this type of wisdom for thousands of years. I want to embody that. Yet you don't want to bet on yourself. You don't want to invest in
Well, it's
yourself.
the thing. It's fear.
Yeah.
Fear, it holds them back from stepping out and coming out of the closet or putting themselves out there, and that's okay if that's what somebody wants to explore and experience, because it's my it's my thought on all of this that we just are all playing roles. It's been my experience that we're just all here playing a role. It's like we're actors in a movie. And then we explore and experience whatever we want to explore and experience. And then we go back to heaven. I call heaven. I'm a good Catholic girl. And and then we're up there and we're going, okay, what's our next adventure? Because we're always creating. Once we have something that we want to create and we achieve that goal, what do we do immediately? Oh, what's next? What am I going to do next? Always. And I think that that's just part of our spiritual nature, is to create. That's why we're all here. But we're playing roles. I'll have people say to me, well, what about Hitler? What about these horrible axe murderers and serial killers and all of that? And I'll say, well, their spirit's pure love. That was a role they were playing. And that makes people nuts. It almost makes some people apoplectic, because they're like, what? How can you think that? We want them to be burning in hell for eternity. And I say, hell doesn't exist. Evil spirits don't exist. That's been used by cultures and religions to control the masses over the millennia. All spirits are pure love. Everybody goes to heaven, even a Hitler, because his spirit is pure love. And that was a role he was playing. Well, why did that have to happen? Well, there were things that were good that came out of that. And people say, like what? Well, like, we're not, when we see somebody being persecuted in a culture, we know that's not okay. And we have the technology now to find out about it. As we're taping this, we've got the Iran situation going on. And regardless of what your opinion is on that, my feeling is there are good things that are going to come out of that in the midst of this horror that's happening. And one of the good things is the women. The women are going to be able to go to school. I know a woman who has a friend whose daughter had acid thrown in her face because her headdress was not on properly. And a police officer threw acid in her face, and she's blind in one eye. And the persecution of especially women, I'm really excited about the possibilities of what can come, once this is all settled. And that's just one thing that's coming. So I always try and look for, how's this going to benefit people? We've got to shatter the old in order for new things to come in. And how is this going to help? It'll be fun. It'll be interesting to see it all unfold.
Yeah, I mean, people seem to forget that, not 3 weeks before, the Ayatollah of rock and roller was smoked like the local barbecue. I mean, guess what? He murdered 30,000 people without
Yeah.
any problem, his own citizens. So
Right.
I'm sorry to break the news to you. The horrible, horrific barbecue that Trump put upon him was kind of like an easy way out, in my opinion. And, the truth be known, that sort of genocide has been going on. It's still going on right now. We allow, as a forging force of change in a Western world, the idolization of Americana is still the golden standard for civilization. We are able to maintain our homeostasis, our sovereignty as a citizen. We are able to do that.
Mhm.
That's what a republic is. That's why that America is hated by so many other countries that want to control their citizens. We do not do that. That's why there's so much freedom here. And so when you have something as atrocious as what took place 3 weeks before finally liberating a country, you feel your heart open and you cry with tears of joy when you watch people celebrating in the street for the death of someone who had been basically murdering thousands, if not millions, of people over the last 4 or 5 decades.
Yeah. Well, like a modern day Hitler.
Yeah. Oh,
Really.
without question.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was the same thing with Mao within the Chinese culture. He murdered 60 million of his citizens. And a lot of people within the culture that I teach, the natives, have a real problem when I start spouting that type of stuff because they want to erase it. They don't want to hear
Mhm.
about how horrible it is, but it's happening right now.
Well,
Like,
Stalin and Lenin and I
Mhm.
mean, all those different countries in Africa, same
Yeah.
thing.
I
Yeah.
mean, Iran's a great one. Here, you want to get some real sobering information. It's like they would have 16-year-old girls or young teenager women, and they'll be like, "Oh, she has to die. She didn't say hello to me," and they would be like, "Oh, we can't execute a virgin," so they would rape this woman and then execute her, a
Mhm.
young girl. This
Right.
was normal. This is going on. So just because you're like, oh my goodness, I'm horrified, that's, there's a little homeostasis that America has come in and regulated a little bit more of the world so people can actually survive because this stuff is going on. Oh, am I spouting my personality? I do have it, guys. Relax. It's okay. I can, I'm gonna get a little flowery, but the truth be known, women have no value in that culture. They did back in the 60s, or I think it was 60s or 70s. Then they
Mhm.
were overthrown. And for the last 50 years, they've been treating women like human garbage.
Mhm.
And anything short of that is the normal outcome for a citizen of Iran. It's like, no, enough already. And I
Yeah.
mean, I don't shed any tears. I have empathy for everyone. But the truth be known, even under the teaching that you've been sharing just in the last couple of minutes, that Ayatollah or whatever his name is, he is still a strand of heaven-like substance that is taking on a form that was necessary. I I mean, to justify it, it doesn't make sense to any of us, but there was a learning curve for that.
Mhm.
Um, Death is temporary; it's not permanent.
Well, and I believe that his spirit is in heaven. Now,
Hmm.
I don't think he's dancing with a bunch of virgins up there, but I think that his spirit is in heaven and that was a role he was playing. To your point just a minute ago, what catalyst was happening? What was the catalyst that happened for this big change to be made and to go forward to create good things?
Hmm.
And so, and really it happens in everything. You think about nature, think of the waves of the ocean, think of the seasons, you've got calm, disruption, repair. Waves of the ocean, it's calm, disruption, the waves come in, the repair, the waves go back out, and then it's calm. You have the seasons, you've got calm in the summertime, and then you have disruption in the fall when the leaves fall off the tree and some of the plants go dormant. And then you have repair in the spring. And how do those seeds sprout? They rupture, they shatter in order for growth to come in. So I think it's everywhere in our reality, but we just haven't ever been taught to look at it. And again, staying in the middle, staying in the neutral zone is the way that I think the most creation happens. Because when we're too wound up on either side of the equation, we can lose perspective of, okay, this is maybe something that worked in this negative situation. How can we make that better? I was a sorority advisor at the University of Alabama. I live in Birmingham for 12 years and 450 girls in the chapter. So I heard lots of broken heart stories over the years. And I used to say to my girls, well, first of all, I want you to remember one four-letter word, when your heart is breaking because your boyfriend just dumped you, and they'll have their attention because these are like 18 to 22-year-olds. And they'll say, okay. And I'll say, next. Next, what are you going to create? Take what you liked from Joe Schmo and then add to it what you'd like to add to the things that you liked from Joe and focus on that. And that's what you'll attract in your next guy. And even now, some of them have been out of school for 10 or 12 years. And I'll get a text from them and they'll say, Miss Julie, because we're in the South, Miss Julie, my boyfriend broke up with me and I could hear you in my head saying next. And it's true. I think if we understand what we can take out of a situation that's good and then build on it, well, we can access the unimaginable. And it's unimaginable because it doesn't exist yet and we don't have a frame of reference for it.
It's like when you mention that, it goes back to when I was talking about the trilogy of Taoist creation, completion, and rebirth.
Right.
Same thing coming through. And, when you ask yourself, where's the innocence? Like back in the day when we were kids, it's like, my goodness, I had a mentor when I was a young boy. I had a bodybuilding mentor teaching me nutrition and conditioning me at the age of 10, that I was able to find that in a gym environment, in a church. But it's like, would that even be something I would consider in my mind as a parent today? No. Oh, sure. No. My 10-year-old just goes off to 24-hour fitness and there's going to be some guy there that's going to have his best interest and teach him the inner secrets of the human, conditioning through nutrition and exercise. I mean, that would be categorized as something a little bit more ominous that's right in the limelight these days. So who stole the innocence that was free flowing for you and I as children, but now it's like literally non-existent in society today. It's not offered. It's not something that we can really, rely
That's
on.
a great question. Who stole it? What came into my mind was the 24/7 news cycle and social media cycle. Mm-hmm. That we have so much coming at us, and so much of it is negative because in the news business, if it bleeds, it leads. I love the news network. I forget which one it is, one of the main ones here in America. And out of a half an hour news show, they'll dedicate 3 minutes to the good feeling story of the day. And like the whole rest of the broadcast is all bad stuff. But they put that good feeling story in. And it's because they're appealing to people's sense of fear. There's bombing happening on the other side of the world and everybody's, scared to death it's going to come to them. Not to negate the suffering of people on the other side of the world, but chances are really good that it's not going to happen at your house. And so they put people in fear, which causes more eyeballs to watch the news story, click on the story online, go to the social media thing, more views. The more views, the more money they can charge for advertising. So it's all about the bottom line. And so when people talk to me about how depressed they are about what's happening in the world, I say, turn off the news. Don't watch it. Don't look at that stuff. And they say, well, that's really naive. I need to know what's going on in the world. I said, why? If it's putting you into a state of depression and you're being manipulated by the industry to get more ad dollars, it's all about the bottom line. How many ads can we play? How many people are going to watch them? The more people watching that news or that show, the more they can charge for the advertising. And same with newspapers, same with everything. And when I point that out to people, it's like, whoa, I never thought of it that way. I said, it's all manipulation. It's all about the dollar.
It's a big conspiracy, but that word is such a dirty word that, that was created from many decades ago to be that, because that's a spearhead to create doubt in anything. First thing you do is you shelter the truth, and you inject that word conspiratory. And
Right.
then, of course, we dismiss anything after that because, it holds no merit. Oh, it's just some crackpot tin cap wearing nutter that's got some version of what the truth is. But the reality is you're right on the dead center point. And the more and more people dismiss you because you're so far into it that you're just, the voice is not heard. It falls
Mhm.
on deaf ears. And
Yeah.
the truth be known, we are dealing with an absolute onslaught that has been going on in this country for decades, right down to the exogenous stresses of food itself. And then when you look around, I was just on the strip this morning, power walking with my family, doing like intermittent training and stuff. Let's be honest, I look around and like most of the people that are walking up and down the strip are struggling with just surviving.
Mm.
Yes, they're probably in and out of their last drink from last night. They're starting again. It's first thing in the morning. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, sure. Whatever they consider a good time. But the truth be known, when you look at the average male and the reason why their timeline of existence or length of life is so short that you're lucky to make 70 is because they're literally poisoning themselves from the inside out with food choices. Because in America, we are being hit left, right, and center with processed crap that's not even food. It's condensed calories that overload the system, and then you create a rebellion from the inside out. We refer to this as insulin resistance. Furthermore, the pre-diabetic pandemic is happening. It's happening.
Mhm.
It has been for years. It's happening since the 80s. And
Mhm.
so how you prepare the food, McDonald's wasn't what it's like back in the 70s or 80s, where they were actually using lard. These days they cook with, seed oils. So
Yeah.
you don't have a chance, in any chance whatsoever, to survive what happens to you once you start eating this type of food on a regular basis. I mean, goes back to that guy that did the documentary Super Size Me. I don't know whether you ever remember that.
I do. Yes.
And you know what happened to him?
I
You
don't.
know, yeah. So he went through that. He was completely a bill of great health. He spent 30 days eating McDonald's 3 times a day for 30 days. And then he went from having the best biomarkers that you've ever seen on paper. And at the end, he had literally a liver that looked like someone that had cirrhosis from drinking for 20 years straight in
Wow.
30 days, just eating McDonald's 3 times a day.
Wow.
And in the end, he died of cancer 2 years ago.
I didn't realize that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's like, so the toxicity levels are high. The price of playing this game is high, and we're literally being like, pigs fed to the slaughter, because it's a cycle. The more you maintain this sickness, the more people become customers in every shape, way, or form. They buy the sick food, they become sick, they buy the sick drugs, they become even sicker. And then there's a certain point through their life cycle where, after they've spent their life savings on just creating some type of normalcy that doesn't go past, just visiting the doctor or going to the hospital,
Mm.
they die.
Yeah.
And this is a cycle within America. It's like, it's literally a script that we've seen over and over again. And it doesn't happen in other parts of the world. This is an epidemic. This is an issue, and we're not being able to remedy it. I mean, I think there's big changes in the food pyramid that
Mhm.
makes more sense for people. People understand it. And, there's this whole myth behind certain types of foods that people eat. And, I believe there's a lot of merit to vegetarianism or veganism to a degree, but the truth be known, you're not getting the nutrients that you need to create homeostasis in the body.
Mhm.
You're eating all this toxic load and fake meats and fake food, and they're just like passing off processed garbage from, like, Burger King, and then they're eating a fake patty that's not even made out of any form of meat, that is even more toxic. I mean, Beyond Meat, their shares have gone in the toilet. They used to be a contender. They used to have promise in the future, but I think they're going out of business because people woke up to the scam. The scam is over. I don't know how we got on this, but it was kind of exciting. I don't know.
Well, I'm older than you are, so I grew up in the 60s and 70s. And when margarine came in, and I've told you many times I was weaned on Twinkies.
Yeah.
And our pantry in my home that I grew up in, I'm one of 4 children. It was the favorite of all the neighborhood kids. They'd come to the Ryan's house because we had the most cookies, the most soda pop, the most, Twinkies, ding dongs, ho-hos, chips, whatever. It was just like a junk pantry. And that's what we were fed. Well, certainly we were fed meat and things like that too, but all that stuff was available. I was just telling a friend this morning. I hadn't thought of this in a long time. My beloved Mima, who died 6 weeks shy of 100, and I'm named for her. She was Joya. I'm Julie. And she said to me, she was probably in her early to mid 80s. And we were sitting someplace in a park or something on a bench, just she and I, and she said, I don't understand why everybody's gotten so fat all of a sudden, like just looking at the population. And I said, well, is it different? She said, I've never seen so many fat people.
Yeah.
And this was in the 80s.
Yeah.
You mentioned the 80s before, but I think I can still see the commercial on TV. There was this woman who was Mother Nature, and she'd fling her arms and there'd be a lightning bolt, and she'd say, it's not nice to fool Mother Nature. And it was this margarine that tasted like butter. And that was the ad for it, one of the all-time great ads. But we were all tucked into all of that. Crisco, margarine, Velveeta, all the fake stuff. And it's just gotten worse over the years. So I'm glad to see some change.
Well, I mean, that type of seed oil, people don't understand. You consume that, and that will absolutely 1000% stay in the cycle of the body for upward of 600 to 900 days.
What? Really?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
canola oil and safflower oil
Yeah.
sit in the body for 900 days?
Yes.
That's what, 3 years?
That's more than 3 years. That's like 6 years.
Well,
And it's getting worse.
300 days in a year, right?
Yeah. 4 years. There we go. We're doing the math. No.
365 in a year.
I'm having a brain fog. Yeah, about 3 years.
Yeah, but I look at the difference in all of the packaged stuff that we have now. And I remember when my son was little and I stopped buying soda pop, and I wouldn't buy certain kinds of chips that had so many preservatives and additives. You couldn't pronounce any of them. Then he thought he was being discriminated against. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. But you know what? He doesn't drink it now as an adult.
Yeah.
And he knows that if he drinks it, that it's not good.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I mean, you get that type of like concentration of calories and an empty calorie, like just processed sugar, that is just
Right.
like, it's like fuel on a fire. It has absolutely no redeeming feature whatsoever. I mean, you can handle only so much. I mean, if my kids are out and they want something special, it's a birthday, and they're like, oh, can I have a birthday cake or something? Maybe get a cupcake. But they've got so much vital energy. If they eat that once a year, when they eat it, it's like all bets are off. Run for the hills, because they are just bouncing. They are bouncing everywhere.
Yeah.
You imagine 6 of them just bouncing all over the place because they're already above the standard of highest energy. And then you add that, and it's just like, what is going on here? But you recognize how powerful that is as a drug. And it's always been legal. It's always been normalized, and it's a drug, just like alcohol, just like medications, just like big pharma. These are all drugs, and people don't understand that. The old adage, I think it was, let food be thy medicine. I think it was Socrates said that.
Mm-hmm.
It's true, because when you understand how to play with these things, you can evoke incredible results from the human body so quickly. It's like it'll
Mhm.
make your head spin. But you need to know how they work, how the mechanisms work, and what to play with when you're doing that in relation to how am I going to intercept or utilize an energy pathway so that you get the most out of it, which you nurture the muscle tissue, nurture the endocrine system, and get it starting to work optimally the way it was always designed to. And so when you look around and like, walking down the strip and I see all these guys that are compromised, I just see, skull and bones with an X through it. I mean, one death walking after another. You watch their energy and they're just so minimalist. I mean, there's just nothing there. They're running on empty. There's just
Mhm.
fumes, and they don't recognize they're one drink, one greasy meal away from, being permanently erased from a human level, and that's what people don't think. Oh, well, I've got a couple of pounds to lose. It's not the subcutaneous fat you have to worry about. It's not the jelly roll grandma arm stuff. It's the visceral fat that is internal. That if you cut a piece of meat and you look at the marbling inside, that's the issue that you have with what you're ingraining in the muscle tissue, and then furthermore, what's coating the organs. And that only comes from one thing: seed oils. That's how you get it. Not the saturated fat that they're telling us that grandma was feeding you all this garbage. Back in the 50s, they were eating full cream, drinking full cream milk, and eating freaking lard like it's nobody's business. There wasn't a overweight person in the house.
Well, look at the French.
Yeah. Yep.
Same
Yep.
thing. Well, and
Exactly.
that's a great example of you've got something that's less than optimal. We're
Mhm.
starting to see it shatter. People are starting to wake up when the moms from America go visit Kellogg's, and Kellogg's won't let them come in the building to talk to them. And so they're bringing attention to it, which is shattering the old way, and it's
Mhm.
allowing new things to come in that are that's gonna benefit everybody. And I
Yeah.
think we see that in all areas of our lives, and it's continuous. And it's not bad, it's just part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's it. You have to rethink, or how appropriate that slogan, reimagine. It's
Mhm,
there for the programming. We are being programmed like little minions, and as
mhm,
you steer away from the things that are so blatantly obvious, like social media, news media, things that will bypass subliminally into the operating system, and then you don't realize why you're being controlled by your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. It comes down to, how am I taking this stuff, this exterior stuff, and bleeding it into the periphery, and it's
mhm.
coming in and it's overriding the system, and you don't understand how this is all of a sudden become dominant. It's a part of you that I didn't have any opposing thoughts or opinions on this. Why is this affecting me emotionally? Why am I
Mhm.
so upset over this? Or why is this making me so angry? Because it's been feeding in, I mean, for a long, long time. And then you add food to it, then you just become, like you're literally in the FBI, uh, basically protection. What is it? The
Witness protection. Yeah.
witness protection
Witness
program, and
protection.
you're paranoid, and
Yeah.
you're completely depressed and anxiety driven from all this chemistry. And
Well,
it's
what are the statistics? And I don't know if it was the communists that did this. I don't remember. I think they were involved, but there's been so much study done on how many times something needs to be repeated
Mhm.
over a period of time in order for it to be accepted as the truth, even when it's false. But it's how it's said, how it's marketed, how it's you brought up the conspiracy word, and I think that was founded by our CIA. The
Yeah,
cons
yeah, it was. That was their gift to society.
Yeah.
Was, let's start
So,
there.
but it's there's a great book about all of this, and it's called a President and a Pope, or a Pope and a President, one or the other. Have you read it?
No,
Oh,
no.
it's great. It's about how President Reagan and Pope John Paul II were such good friends. They had their assassination attempts, I think, a month apart, and they worked together for the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. And it's really interesting because they would the intelligence would come in from the priests in Eastern Europe. It would come into the Vatican, and then Bill Casey was the CIA director, and he would land at the Vatican airport like at 2 in the morning or something and be gone by 4. And they would get all the information, all the intelligence, from behind the scenes. And I read Nancy Reagan's biography, and the person who was writing it asked her who was President Reagan's best friend, and she said Pope John Paul II. And she said they just had this affinity. They both felt like they were on a mission from God. I guess they were both blues brothers. They were on a mission from God, and they worked together, and they were very close. I didn't know that history, but it's a fascinating read if you're interested in that kind of thing. And furthermore, I believe it was, I'm trying to think who it was. It was right after World War II. So who was in office right after World War II? FDR, or who
I
who
think it
was?
might have been FDR. I
Yeah.
think it was in the 40s,
Yeah, it was in the 40s. So let's say FDR. And so Pope Pius XII came to Washington to visit him. And he said, America's role, and you alluded to this earlier, is to help bring peace throughout the world, because nobody else can do it. And he talked to the president about that. And then fast forward, the same thing happened with Mother Teresa and John Paul II with President Reagan. And they said, this is a part of America's role in the world, is to help people who are underprivileged, who can't help themselves, not just from different charity things, but when you see oppression and things like that, and then it goes forward to, some people believe that's what's happening today. And it's really an interesting compilation of all these historic events, and it's laid out in a way that you can see this path, that there's a bigger picture here, and it's spirit leading. And we think, well, spirit wouldn't lead for somebody to be injured or whatever, and it's always a bigger picture. I've heard a bazillion times from spirit in heaven, and I talk to dead people all the time. That spirit guides and angels and all of that. And what I've heard is there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad in heaven, which is a very controversial thing that I hear from them all the time. But it's just an experience when we're here. We're here to have the human experience. And so when something really bad is going on in our lives, what we perceive as bad, we have our spirit guides and our angels and our deceased loved ones in heaven going, cool. What's son going to do next to get himself out of this pickle? What's he going to create? How's this going to go forward? Because what I've heard is in non-physical, in heaven, what I call it, is it's just always pure love. There's no ups and downs, goods or bads creating things. It's just all hunky all the time. And so that's why they like to reincarnate and come back and have the opportunity to create. That's a big concept shift. It was the first time I heard it about 30 years ago. Now I've just heard it so much that I go to the place of, do I really understand it? No. Is it feasible? Yes. Will I understand it when I'm back in heaven? Yes, I believe I will. So again, staying in the middle of that Lady of Justice statue. Okay, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I'll find out. Is it feasible? Yes. Is the other way feasible? Yes. Okay, who knows for sure? We'll figure it out.
Well, it makes total sense. You know, a lot of people tend to be fear mongered, and they go to that place where there's not enough goodness coming out of that. And you know, what's the classic one that you and I have heard of, peddled numerous times over? Earth is a prison planet. Remember that, you know, right? And that tends to fall on deaf ears for me. You know, you didn't have me at hello when you say shit like that. I'm sorry. It's like
Well, I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. It's the springtime. Everything's in bloom. This morning I went with my husband to his doctor's appointment and I thought, thank you, God, for making it today because the sun was shining. It was blue sky, white puffy clouds, and all the pear trees are in bloom and they grow wild down here. Everywhere I drove, it was just glorious with all this stuff in bloom. The forsythia is blooming. The cherry trees are starting to bloom. The red buds are in bloom. Soon it'll be the dogwoods and the wisteria will hang off the trees in the woods. I mean, it's glorious. There's no way this is a prison planet. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a friend as I was driving over there, and I said, I feel like I'm driving through fairyland because I was going down this in this commercial park and they had Bradford pear trees lining both sides of the road. It was just this explosion of these blooms. It was just absolutely glorious. And so, yeah, no
yeah.
way.
Yeah, we're not buying it. Sorry, guys. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, but
I
this
never
is
heard that. I've never heard that before.
the prison planet thing.
No.
Oh, I've heard it 1,000 times over. It kind of gets a little old.
You hang out with more negative people than I do, maybe. Well, and I have stories of clients who live in your old homeland in Melbourne and places like that. And during the pandemic, they weren't allowed to go out on their balconies in
No,
Melbourne.
no. I had friends that were literally, they went outside their house and they walked down the street, and then they'd come across a police officer and they would be like, "What's your address?" And they'd give him their address. And then they'd say, "Well, you're 40 feet past your maximum distance that you can walk. We have to arrest you now. I'm really sorry about that." I mean, it was, there was a sobering reality for Australia, for the fact that there was this myth that there was a diplomatic sort of like consensus. There's no democracy in Australia. You are a prisoner and you are a second class citizen. Most people think they're like, oh, we're America, we're free.
Yeah.
Well, we're not a democracy here in America. We're a republic. People need to understand that. That means that every single citizen, that's why citizenship is such a gift. You have the same rights everyone else has individually.
Right.
And there's nothing like that anywhere else in the world.
And bestowed by God in the
Yes.
Constitution is what it says.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And they still
inalienable rights bestowed by God.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't get any better than that. I mean,
right.
The founding fathers had their hand on the pulse.
Yeah.
And so even to this day, that foundation is attempting to be erased, but it will not.
Right.
For people that really understand this country. Never.
Yeah. Well, and I think you can't erase the culture. Even in China, for instance, you've got the culture there and you've got kabillions of years of the culture, and that permeates everything. So the stuff on the surface is one thing, but underneath is the culture. And that's the thing that holds different countries and different cultures and people together, is what's our tradition? What do we do at Christmas? What do we do at different holidays? I love to hear different traditions of different cultures and people at Christmas time. I think it's fascinating. What do the Germans do? What do the French do? What do the, Australians do? Because it's summertime down there. Well, that just doesn't seem right. How's Santa going to arrive on a surfboard instead of on snow in a sleigh?
Pretty much,
yeah. Things like that.
The big basket of lobster and prawns, mate, or you might call them shrimp.
Yes. Well, you were talking about mince the other day. You kept
Yeah,
talking about mince. I go, "Are you talking about ground
yeah,
hamburger?" And you said, "Yeah, mince." I go,
yeah.
"Okay." Yeah. But I love to see what the history is. What's the culture? What's the architecture? What have these people built over centuries, sometimes millennia? And then that's where the spirit is, and it never leaves those those people. I find that it's always embedded in there, whether it needs to be resurrected or not. I find that fascinating. Do you
Mm.
see that as well?
Oh yeah, I love diving deep into culture and the foundation of it and the ancestry of it and the history.
Yeah.
It's just exciting. All of it, all of the above.
Well, and then you go to religions like Catholicism and Christianity, and it fascinates me that some of the greatest cathedrals in the world are built on former pagan worship sites. And then they take it further, and there are ley lines there in the earth. And certainly the indigenous cultures have that as well. And they would have their villages and their temples and their things like that. Here in Birmingham, there's this place. I don't know if I've ever told you about it. It's called Gravity Hill. It's
Mm.
on it's on Google. I mean, you can do Google Maps and it'll take you there. I took my girlfriend there about a month ago, and we had so much fun, son. And you put your car headed towards this stop sign, and it goes out onto a state highway, and then you put your car in neutral, and your car is pulled back up the hill at 5 miles an hour.
Mm.
And I was telling my friend about it who was visiting from out of state. And she goes, "No way." I said, "I promise you." So we did it 7 times. We did it with the car being pulled back up. We did it with the car facing, and the car, the front of the car was pulled up. And so she was looking it up online, and she said that, some people believe it's an optical illusion. I said, "It's not an optical illusion." We took a ball and rolled it down. I mean, we were just having a ball. We were laughing so hard. And I said, "I scanned it. And what I saw was a vortex that was up the hill, and it was pulling the car. And I got a heavy car. It was pulling that car up the hill. It's wild."
Yeah,
And
yeah. I
and so
can.
that's an example of the ley lines or the energetic things. People say they feel it in Sedona, they feel it at Stonehenge. Is it Stonehenge?
Mhm.
Stonehenge and, and other places, the pyramids. All throughout the world, there are pyramids. Well, the pyramids are energy generators. And it fascinates me that most of them have water running through them. Well, water is a conductor of energy. And furthermore, most of them are set up according to similar, if not the exact, latitude and longitudinal coordinates. And I think, okay, these are people all over the world that there's no way they could have communicated with one another. What are they tapping into? And what's that all about? Have you done a deep dive on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fascinating thing through the landscape of China. There are hundreds of pyramids with the tops lopped off them because that's where,
Wow.
the Taoist priests would do all their grid work to connect with the cosmos and, all the constellations and then draw the divine energy down into the pyramid and then transmit it for, healing.
Right.
That's been a relationship that's been going on for thousands of years.
The
This
tops are lopped off. Are they like a pagoda style
Yeah, it's like
pyramid?
instead of it being a triangle, it'll be a
Yes. Okay,
yeah,
I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah. But so that would bring the priest closer to the connection with the cosmos at the highest point of that transmitted energy. And
Yeah.
people get fascinated. They're like, "Oh my goodness, I had no idea." Yeah, there's pyramids all over China,
Mhm.
all over
There's
China, and they
pyramids.
get
There's
covered.
pyramids in America, apparently.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
I know there's some in Hawaii on the
Yeah,
Big Island.
yeah, yeah. And
It's
mountains
fascinating.
are also natural form pyramids.
Good point.
Yeah, yeah. The juice is off the hook. It's off the
Mhm.
chain. It's amazing.
Do
Absolutely.
mountains have streams flowing through the bottom of them? Some of them do, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
underground streams.
and some of the best tea that's grown in China is always at the base of a mountain and the amount of light and then darkness that is put upon the harvest determines the quality and the benefit of the tea itself. So
Huh.
that goes to the grade of it. Yeah.
I find that stuff just fascinating.
Right.
Yeah, and well, and I've read that it's kind of like a galactic early internet. Not to mention, how did they build them? They
Yeah.
didn't have crane. I don't even know that cranes could build one in this
No.
day and age. Maybe, I don't know, but how were they built?
It's a level of levitation. I mean, there is no way that enough manpower could put together these type of constructions that are just perfect. Nothing out of shape, nothing out of place.
Mhm.
Huge blocks of stone that are, like that have to be
Thousands of pounds.
hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yeah, tons, right, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff fascinates me too. I'd love to in my next life, maybe later on in this one, I'll explore that and think. I haven't been there either. I wanna go see what it looks like from the energetic standpoint. See what I can
Well,
pick up.
we'll have to do that one too.
Yeah,
A
we
whole,
can do that. I know, but I know you bring all your kids with you when you travel, so I'll just
yeah.
be you won't need a car seat for me though.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I just want to, thank you, my most beautiful family member, for spending time with me, because it's very sacred, and I want to thank the audience for taking a moment just to have a little private conversation that we're having. We're letting you in on how we kind of conduct ourselves
Yeah,
behind closed doors. This is
right.
it. This is a
We
secret
solve
sauce.
world problems. When
Yeah,
we have our
yeah. We
conversation.
just,
Like
there's always
healthy clutch.
there's always something fascinating to dive into.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be as stiff or as rigid as you are a psychic, you are a channel, you
No,
are a
that ain't me.
healer.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I turn it on and off at will like you do. It's like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I don't have dead people chasing me around, or if they are, I don't know it because my radar is turned off.
Sorry, I'm closed for business right now. Come back tomorrow.
Yeah, really.
Uh,
Well, you meet all these psychics and mediums that, they could communicate as children. I didn't have that. I learned how to do all this stuff, and I
Mm.
teach people. And as I mentioned, my next class is gonna be May 16th and 17th. And by the way, anybody that wants a free copy of my book, Angelic Attendants, What Really Happens as We Transition from This Life into the Next, and it has all kinds of illustrations in it about how the angels and the loved ones surround us, and it's really helpful. If you've ever lost a loved one, it'll bring you a lot of comfort. Or we're all going to lose somebody we love, and heck, we're all going to be there ourselves one day. So it's nice to know what's going to happen. And again, it's staying in the middle, because you got the heart-wrenching part that your loved one is in the dying phase, and you got this glorious side of the equation where they're surrounded by angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets. And university-based research validates that, says 90% of people can see their loved ones' spirits as they're transitioning, and they talk about it. And we think, well, grandma's hallucinating from the morphine. No, she's not. She's actually able to see her mother who's been dead for 40 years. And so I give away thousands of these books every year to people, because I think this stuff should be taught in the schools. So just go to askjulieryan.com if you want to sign up for my class, if you want a free copy of my book, if you want, we do a live show every Thursday night at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. And it's a blast. As you know, people call in from all over the world, and we can talk to your dead grandma, because I am a buffet of psychicness. We can talk to your dead grandma. We can scan your cat. I can scan you. I'm like a human MRI, do a healing. We can do past lives. We can tell how close to death somebody is. We can talk to your angels, whatever. And so that's a lot of fun. You've been on my show several times. We'll have you back soon. So always so much fun to be with you and to get to talk with you.
Well, it's always just being at home with family, and I want everyone to go out and take advantage of Julie offering her book and her classes. I want everyone to go exploring that, because there is no one like Julie Ryan. And as a family member, I've got so much love and unconditional love and support for her. And she's just incredible. Yes, I'm a little biased, but trust me, you'll love her too. Just get to know her.
No, thank you for that.
So on that note, I just want to thank you. I want to thank the audience, and I'll see you guys on the next one. San Qing signing out.
Mwah. Bye, everybody.